Well, what about a for-profit business
嗱，比方嗰啲係嚟到係謀取盈利嘅嗰啲嘅商界又點樣樣咧？
that produces good service and good products?
佢係能夠提供良好嘅服務同埋良好嘅產品。
What if the product is making toys?
嗱，比方係製造玩具，
Is that doing kingdom work?
咁製造玩具嘅係咪你係做緊國度嘅工作咧？
Or what if the product is producing computers
或者佢係製造電腦，
or parts for a computer?
或者係電腦嘅一啲嘅設備？
I know that's a contemporary issue.
咁大家都明白富士康事件啦。
Here is my friend in Singapore.
我有個朋友喺新加坡裏邊，
His name is Clive Lim Clive.
咁就呢個就係姓林嘅呢位，
He has an investment firm.
佢有一間投資公司，
It's called Leap International.
就叫做呢一個咁嘅名啦，就 Leap International。
I think he's doing kingdom work.
我就認為佢係做緊呢個國度嘅工作。
It's not all there is to kingdom work,
當然唔係全部都係國度事工，
but he's doing part of it.
佢係只係做緊部分。
And this is his wife who also works in the business.
咁佢太太都參與喺當中。
What about a for-profit business that runs on kingdom principles?
或者呢啲係有盈利嘅生意，佢係按住國度嘅原則嚟到運作嘅。
Well, what I'm trying to show
我想嘗試表達嘅就係、
is that kingdom work is not secular work,
我就話國度嘅工作唔係世俗嘅工作，
but it's also not religious work.
亦唔係宗教嘅工作。
Kingdom work is bringing the life-giving, improving, and blessing rule of God
而呢個國度工作係將呢一個嘅給予生命同埋去改善生命嘅呢啲嘅原則係帶進去，
into every sphere of life.
以致係喺生命嘅唔同嘅範圍裏邊都能夠經歷得到。
At the center is persons.
喺中心就係人，
And in the center of the center
咁而喺呢個中心點
is their relationship with God through Jesus Christ.
就一定係佢哋喺基督耶穌裏邊與上帝呢個復和嘅
So
關
they
係，
can become sons and daughters of God.
以致佢能夠成為神嘅兒女。
But the kingdom is holistic.
而呢個國度係整全嘅。
Kingdom work is different.
咁究竟國度嘅事工係點樣唔同嘅呢？
The motive is for the love of God and neighbor.
嗱，首先我哋需要思想就係個動機係為咗愛神同埋愛人。
Quite a few books are being written today on Great Commission companies.
咁今日都有一啲嘅書就講到呢啲大使命嘅一啲嘅商業。
These are companies established for the stated purpose of advancing the gospel of Jesus Christ.
於是呢啲嘅商業活動嘅存在係為咗嚟促進呢一個嘅使命。
Sometimes the business is just a front.
有啲時候我哋話呢啲嘅商界活動只不過係喺前線裏邊，
Just a way to get access to a restricted access country.
就以至可以喺一啲創啟嘅地區裏邊嚟到係可以喺當中嚟到開展。
They don't believe that the business itself has any value.
咁佢哋唔相信呢啲嘅商業嘅活動有任何內在嘅價值，
Not everybody thinks that way.
但唔係個個人都咁樣睇。
And some will say, no, I'm really involved in something that has intrinsic value.
我相信裏邊係有啲內在嘅價值喺裏邊。
But what if we had great commandment companies?
但我哋比方有啲嘅所謂呢個嘅實踐呢個嘅愛心大誡命嘅公司咧，
Companies that set out to love God
嗰啲嘅公司嚟到係去表達佢哋去愛上帝
and to love the neighbor.
同埋去愛鄰舍。
The means of a kingdom work is to bring the best out of people.
於是我哋話嗰個嘅手段就係去引發人嘅美善同埋優點。
Not to treat people as tools or robots.
於是人唔係成為機械人，唔係成為工具。
I know that's a contemporary issue.
咁啊，大家都明白富士康事件係代表咩
I
事情啦
read？the paper.
因為我都有睇呢個新聞。
And the goal
於是我哋個目標
is to participate in the inbreaking of God's beautiful rule.
於是我哋嚟講係參與響上帝呢個美善嘅管治裏邊，
And the final end of kingdom work
以至我最終嘅嗰個嘅成果
is that what we do will last into the new heaven and new earth.
於是我哋今日所做嘅，佢能夠有長留嘅價值，係響新天新地裏邊。
Now, this is not a talk on the new heaven and new earth,
當然今日我哋唔係講新天新地咧，
but I believe Paul,
但我相信
He said in 1 Corinthians 15:58,
保羅喺哥林多前書裏邊所講嘅，
Your labor in the Lord will not be in vain.
你在主裏邊嘅勞苦不是徒然的。
The context is the resurrection.
而呢個場景其實就係講到一個復活嘅境況。
And of course, it refers to gospel ministry,
當然佢係所指嘅係指到呢個福音嘅事工，
but not exclusively.
但唔係單單係福音嘅事工，
It's all your labor in the Lord,
就係話你在主裏邊所有嘅勞苦，
which is work you do with faith, hope, and love.
就係話當你憑住信望愛所做嘅一切。
I've written quite a few books,
我讀過一啲嘅書，
and I'm afraid that at the final judgment,
我相信喺呢個終極嘅審判裏邊，
some of them are just going to go up in smoke.
有啲人佢係喺上邊嚟到係去，
So buy one now, it's not going to last.
咁啊當然有啲嘢就唔會係長久，
But I have made a cedar deck
咁我就會咁樣睇，
that was beautiful.
係會有一種美麗
And I
喺裏
made
邊
it。with faith, hope, and love.
我係當我哋有信望愛嚟到去做嘅時候，
And
嗰啲嘅工作係會長久嘅。
After I made it,
咁當我完成一切之後，
I would walk on it.
咁我係喺上邊嚟到
I
行
would
走，
say, it's good.
我就會話啊係美善
It's
嘅，
beautiful.
呢個係美麗嘅。
I think God said, yeah, it's very good.
咁上帝都同樣都會話係好啊，你做嘅係美善嘅。
I think that deck is going to be in the new heaven and new earth.
於是我知道原來我所做嘅呢一啲嘅，即係呢啲嘅木嘅呢啲嘅產品啊，上帝都嚟到喜悅嘅。
So I invite you to a reunion of this conference
所以我希望大家喺完咗呢個大會之後，
in the new heaven and new earth.
將來係喺新天新地裏邊，我哋能夠係再重建
Go
嘅時
down
候
the，Gold Street,
就我哋直行嗰個嘅黃金街，
turn left on Platinum,
咁然後轉彎嘅時候，
right on Silver,
咁然後跟住喺呢個嘅碧玉梯裏邊，
second mansion on the left,
咁就係第二嘅嗰個嘅第二層樓。
and we will have bubble tea or Starbucks coffee
咁我哋咧就係一齊咧可以飲茶啊，或者 Starbucks 嘅咖啡啊。
on my renewed deck.
咁我哋就喺一個咧所謂已經係更新咗嘅呢一個嘅情況裏邊啦。
I don't know for sure.
嗱，當然我頭先所講嘅我都唔能夠
But I
確定。
do know that our work purged of sin can find its place in the new heaven and new earth.
但我哋知道我哋所做嘅工作冇咗呢啲嘅罪污嘅雜質，係必然係能夠長存係響新天新地裏邊。
Now I want to focus in conclusion
嗱，喺我結束嘅時候，我就會嚟到係講呢一部分，
on kingdom equipping.
就係講到國度嘅裝備。
How do we equip the people of the church to be engaged in God's mission?
我哋點樣裝備神嘅子民參與喺呢個上帝嘅使命裏邊呢？
First of all, we need to know that God is the equipper,
首先我哋要知道神就係裝備者，
not you and not me.
唔係你，唔係我，
He is the ultimate equipper.
佢就係最終極嘅嗰個裝備者。
How does he do this?
佢點樣嚟到去從事呢？
He does this by endowing every person with spirit gifts
以至佢就係按住佢主權嚟到將恩賜分配俾我哋各人，
and with talents.
將才幹俾過我哋。
People speak about natural
有
talents
啲時候講佢人天生落嚟嘅才
and
幹，
spiritual gifts,
講嘅佢有嘅屬靈嘅恩賜，
as though the spiritual gifts come from God
就好似呢個屬靈恩賜從神而
and
嚟，
the talents come from human beings.
於是呢個才幹就從人而嚟。
It's all from God.
其實才幹又好，恩賜又好，全部都係從神而
And
嚟。
actually, I don't believe in spiritual gifts.
嗱，當然我都唔係相信即係所講嘅屬靈恩賜，
It's a bit like the soul problem.
就好似呢個嘅講到靈魂一樣。
People think of it as an organ transplant.
就有啲人就以為呢個屬靈恩賜就係你身體裏邊咧多咗一個睇唔見嘅器官。
I believe in spirit gifts.
咁我就會話呢個嘅聖靈係俾我哋各樣嘅恩賜，
It is the Holy Spirit working through the person.
而係呢個嘅聖靈透過你全人喺當中嚟到工作。
Usually, but not always,
當然我就經常而唔係一定嘅，
through the talent and personality that God gave that person.
就透過你嘅神所俾過你嘅性格，俾過你嘅才幹嚟到係去成就呢啲嘅所謂屬靈嘅恩賜。
I get this from Romans 12.
呢個我就從羅馬書12章裏邊
Where-
我所睇嘅。
Paul was talking about spiritual gifts.
當保羅講呢個屬靈恩賜嘅時候
And
就
he
咁樣樣，
says it happens when the teacher is teaching.
就係當呢個教師在教導嘅時候，
Christians aren't the only people who teach,
咁呢個嘅基督徒就喺呢度做緊教導嘅工
but
作。
there's an extra unction which the Holy Spirit gives.
於是當佢咁樣做嘅時候，就係會有呢個聖靈嘅膏抹臨到佢。
He says, with the administrator, it comes through in diligence.
咁於是嗰啲管治嘅，當佢殷勤嘅時候，
And for the person who gives with generosity.
當嗰啲慷慨願意作出奉獻嘅時候，
So God is at work,
所以神就喺當中嚟到工作。
endowing people with the ability to love their neighbor and to love God.
於是就嚟將呢啲俾過佢，以致佢有能力去愛神同埋愛佢嘅鄰舍。
But further,
咁進一步咧，
God equips by providentially placing people in living and working situations.
咁另一方面，神又透過巧妙地安排神嘅子民喺唔同嘅生活同埋職場嘅處境裏邊。
You may know that the Latin word for send is missio.
咁大家都會知道呢一個嘅講到
So we get the word mission
呢個嘅使命就從 missio 呢個字而嚟，
from the Latin,
係從拉丁文而嚟。
but really it means send.
其實呢個字原來嘅意思就係差派。
So wherever you see the word send in the Bible,
所以當你幾時喺聖經裏面睇得到呢個受差派呢個字嘅時候，
read mission.
咁其實你就可以理解呢個就係指到使命。
So Jesus says,
所以耶穌就話：
as the Father has missioned me,
當呢個嘅父點樣嚟到係差派我嘅時候，
so I mission you.
所以我同樣都係差派你去成就呢個使命。
Joseph is down in Egypt.
所以當約瑟去到埃及嘅時候，
His brothers tried to kill him.
佢嘅兄弟想殺害
And
佢，
through a lot of providential circumstances,
但透過一連串好巧妙嘅安排，
he went from prison to the palace.
咁佢係由呢個監獄去到皇宮。
After 2 years of playing with his brothers,
咁當佢用咗2年嘅時間，用計謀同佢嘅兄弟嚟到去玩一個遊戲。
when they first came to Joseph for food,
當佢嘅兄弟嚟到向佢嚟求食物嘅時候，
why didn't he say, "Oh, it's so good to see you"?
佢當時冇嚟到去暴露佢嘅身份，
He threw them in prison.
佢就喺當中嚟到工
He
作，
played with them.
佢就同佢哋一齊去玩一
It
個遊戲。
seems like he was struggling to forgive.
咁好似表面上佢係對於呢個寬恕嘅兄弟有一啲掙扎，
And 2 years later,
但2年之後，
when Judah,
當猶大呢
who is the Christ figure,
一個嘅係基督嘅嗰個嘅形象，
because he said, "I promised our father, it's my life for Benjamin's."
咁佢就嚟到話：我答應咗我父親，我嘅性命係代替呢個便雅憫。
He presented himself as a substitute.
佢呢個係願意用佢嘅性命嚟到代替便雅憫。
Joseph could not play any longer.
於是約瑟就唔該繼續玩佢呢個遊戲啦。
He got everybody out of the room
於是佢叫其他人離開，
and he said, "I am Joseph."
佢就嚟到去暴露佢嘅身份，我就係約瑟。
And then he said,
然後佢跟住講：
"It wasn't you who missioned me here.
佢話唔係你嚟到係差派我嚟到埃及，
It wasn't you who sent me here,
唔係你嚟到叫我嚟到埃及，
but God."
而係神嚟到差派我嚟到埃及。
So God is at work
所以神喺當中嚟到工作
through
嘅，
all the providential
透過一
circumstances,
連串巧妙嘅安排。
placing people in situations where we pastors cannot go.
於是嚟到神就安放一啲人喺一啲嘅位置裏邊，係我哋牧者唔能夠去到嘅。
Though frankly,
所以我哋好坦白咁講，
I encourage pastors
我鼓勵牧者
to spend half a day every week
就每個星期至少有一節嘅時間，
in the workplaces of the members,
咁嚟去到佢嘅會眾佢哋工作嘅場景，
listening,
聆聽、
praying,
祈禱，
and being with them.
與佢哋一齊。
I do this myself.
我自己本身就咁樣嚟到實踐。